Hello, happy Friday, and welcome back to another episode 133 of Electricpreneur Secrets, the Electricians Podcast, where you guessed it, a couple of master electricians with business addictions, myself, Clay Newmeyer, and my esteemed partner, Joseph Lucani. We come together to help you master your sales, simplify your pricing, and deliver premium level electrical gifts. Oh, sorry, did I say gifts? That was from yesterday. I've got this wonderful new birthday present I got here. Can we see that
Oh,
okay?
sweet. Yeah, it's coming through. It's not like our mystery cups like this, where I'm holding a cup of mystery in my hand.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
literally, I love what you have.
I appreciate that. So yesterday, if you were with us, bit of a tag onto the joke there. I didn't open my birthday gift. We tagged that right into our topic of the day, which was really that confidence that needs to be there, that self-worth, and why apparently I don't like to open gifts. But I was really pumped to open that gift, Joe. I appreciate that. And now I have a reminder of everything we stand for every time I tip my cup.
Yes. Well, it was truly my pleasure, man. It's one of those things where sometimes as we're getting a little older, and I say older meaning into our 30s, we think to ourselves like, oh, I don't need things. But the sentimental things hold so much more weight. So a pen, a cup, some coasters, a book, like the random things that we get, a nice pair of socks.
Yep.
For some reason, with the right intention behind it, holds way more value than if it were someone to hand you a pair of keys.
Totally. And speaking of those gifts, like I gotta know because yesterday I think I heard it for the first time. We keep saying STYO, stick to your offer,
Mhm.
stick to your options, stick to it, guys.
Mhm.
Have that level of confidence, have that level of authority to stick to your offer in your clinic. And
Mhm.
yesterday, I think it was Raina, our client's service manager, success manager rather, said you should make an STYO shirt.
Yeah, I could see it.
Now I got to know if you would wear an STYO shirt if we sent that to you. You got to let us know by throwing something in the chat here. If you're with us in VIP, engaging live, as we love everyone who does, put STYO in the chat to let us know that you would like that shirt. I'm not saying it's designed yet, but when it comes out, when that ball drops, when the STYO clothing line comes out, this
Mhm.
might be the first place we look to start sending them out.
Could you imagine a bunch of Louis Vuitton and Gucci brands? It's like we got it all set up. It's like on pink velvet and purple velvet, STYO.
Right. Premium.
Damn right.
Yeah. Premium polyester STYO shirt on the
Premium
shopping network.
polyester.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we talked about some really important stuff yesterday. Of course, this has been an options blitz week. How fitting is it that we're going to end this with a live training, some real options blitz from the man, the myth, the legend, the sales bot, Joseph Lucani himself?
Well, thank you. I mean, hey, those some pretty impressive titles that sometimes, like you, I'm like, man, is that even me? But you know what? Sales bots followed me forever, so I'll run with it.
Are you saying you have a bit of imposter syndrome sometimes?
Oh my God, I live in imposter syndrome land. It's one of those things where no matter how good I get, no matter how high my closing ratio was, no matter what I run into, there's always that fear was, am I still that good? Am I still that guy? But it doesn't matter because I'm going to bring that energy in everything I do. And even if I'm not, I'm going to make everyone even better than me. And that's going to be the benchmark of what I do.
That's fair. That's fair, man. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the transparency and the vulnerability to be able to share your bit of imposter syndrome with us. I know I get it the same way. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what? If someone just tuned into us for the first time, I think it would give this maybe a bit more credit to talk a bit more about where this came from and what this is founded on for just a moment, just to
Sure.
remind our listeners, viewers, or if they haven't heard your story or seen the five pillars value piece where we talk about how you were able to consistently produce 1.3 million in sales revenue from your van alone while being a partner and having responsibility and running your business still.
Mm-hmm.
How in the hell, Joe, did you accomplish that? Like, give us at least just the basis of this framework, if you wouldn't mind, before we dive into and create these options.
It's going to be heavy, but I'll get into it. I'll make
Right.
the shortest story I possibly can
Okay,
with it.
let's go.
All right. So my story has been grow or die. Really, it's just one of those situations because when I first started off in sales, I was a piss poor salesperson. Really couldn't do it, really struggled in a lot of different ways. And the reason why was it was a lot of undiagnosed autism. I struggled with the social situations. I struggled with a lot of literal thinking. Like it was very difficult for me to feel the same as others. And the main thing that came away from it was I got to a point of low where I had gone and said, if I don't pull this off, I'm going to kill myself. Like had the plan, had everything, like literally was like, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get it done. And I said, I have to find a way to get through this, or that's it. That's the end of the line for me. So I invested in constant sales training. I was working with HVAC mentors. I was working with plumbing mentors. I worked with people who do garage doors, like all different stuff because there was no electricians. I have Zig Ziglar books on the wall. Any bit of information I could get, I would sort and I would try to create a process from that I could work with. And through all the trainers that I worked with and all the amalgams that I took, I was able to produce something that worked for me. And the thing that happened was over the next few years, our company started having significant growth. Like I started off with my first year was like $90,000 for the whole year. Like
Wow.
that's not salary. That's what the company produced. We were having like a $300 a month salary. That's how poor we were.
Wow.
But through the consistent effort, we found that we were able to really get it dialed in.
Mm.
And as I would dial it in and try it in the field, we would get better and better and better and better until at my peak, we were closing at a consistent 80% ratio, which is really, really, really hard if you think about it.
Yeah.
And granted, we all had sales slumps. I'm not going to argue that. But my consistent ratio was around 80%, which I'm very, very proud of. Now, as far as the 1.3 million, one thing I really love about that was I was actually pushing for $1 million that year. That
Mm.
was the thing. But pushing at it, I remember hitting that peak point where I was like, things just hit alignment and then we did it. And then it was like, okay, well, now what? We ran it and we did it again. And it was just insane how it happened because now when I realized at that point, then I exited my company in order to join this beautiful endeavor. But the fact was, it's doable and it's replicatable. And if I'm able to do it, me with all my flaws, with all my inadequacies, all my handicaps, if I'm able to do this, what could someone else accomplish with these tools? What could someone else accomplish with having someone who's been doing it and has done it to such a anal degree where every single word has a step and a reason behind it? I truly feel that I should be the benchmark or the bare minimum bottom line of what our clients can do. And I really will not stop until every one of our clients can recognize that same level of success. Because I don't want it just for me. I want it for everyone.
I love that, man. And I think where people get sort of that shock of like, oh, okay, well, there's actually someone training this who's able to produce consistently over $1 million from their own van.
Mm-hmm.
We have all heard about these all stars. We've all maybe heard, even on Waste No Day, right? There's some guys that have hit the 2 million mark a year from their van.
Mm-hmm.
And there are
Yeah.
strategies and there are ways that they're producing that. But it's the fog of the revenue. Does that make sense? What really stands out to me is the word consistent, and not just because it
Right.
starts with a C and so does Clay, and obviously that's really powerful. But consistency is the key. That's
Mm-hmm.
what's hard. I'm not mad at anyone that can sell 30K a month. I just want to see them do it consistently first.
That's one thing that I can say that I did very well because it was literally like every single month you were expecting $100,000. That was the bare minimum. If I did less than $100,000, we were wondering what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that was every single month, year after year after year after year.
Absolutely. Because what I see when I look around is many people can sprint.
Mm-hmm.
Most humans can sprint to some degree. They can turn it on full pressure, full steam for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Very few find a pace that they can consistently do year after year, month after month, week after week. That's the hard part because some other things that get tied in there make it really challenging as humans.
Yeah.
First, there's the excitement and that high that you're riding, the emotion. And then what happens to the ego?
The ego unfortunately gets inflated. And the ego actually has to be put in check in a lot of big ways. You know what I mean? Like we see this with a lot of times with our clients too, because we give them the access of these tools that almost empowers you to where you get sales that you've never gotten or never could have gotten in the past. And it makes you feel almost like you're the superhero. And the problem is that when you sell from the ego, you're not selling from an authentic place anymore. And then that ego gets checked. And that's
Couldn't
the
agree
thing we
more.
have to remember. The consistency comes from the authenticity or
Yeah.
authenticity.
Yeah. And the fall is inevitable.
Mhm.
Everybody falls in this sport. Consistency being the key element that we all really are chasing. Everybody falls short of it at some point because we don't control people. That's not what a sales process is. And that introduces that next part of this puzzle, this next part of the problem, which is even when we're at highs consistently for a long time, then there's another problem that humans have introduced.
Mhm.
Heavy is the head that wears the crown, and the other C word kicks in, the bad one, complacency. Why?
Mhm.
We just don't want it. Like you said, you got to 1.3 and then it's like, well, now what?
Yeah. I remember there was a real moment where I was like, why am I doing this? Like it didn't make any sense. Not because I didn't love what I was doing, but at the time, it was like, do I have kids? Was I starting a family? Like I'm putting in 16-hour days. Like what? Like why? Like what is the purpose of it all? You know?
Totally, man. And that's why it's so important to talk through this because we encourage you to explore this about yourself. We encourage you to hold that mirror up and say, really, where am I? Because the reality is success is boring. It's not enough for you to be at the top and stay at the top forever. That's not realistic.
Mhm.
It's a growth mindset. We're all growing, and at some point, you'll reach a capacity for what you're really capable of, and without some big linchpin, something to unlock your greater growth, you'll be stuck. You'll hit a ceiling. And I
Mhm.
don't know if you're listening to this and that ceiling for you may be 800,000 a year. That ceiling may be 450,000. That ceiling may be one, maybe Joe's 1.3, or it may be 2.3, like some of the other all-stars out there. Not
Mhm.
everyone's going to have the same revenue potential. And there's so many factors that go into that. So we have to detach from that entirely.
Mhm.
The greatest linchpin you'll ever receive, the greatest ability you'll ever have is your ability to maximize your own potential from true ethical intent and
Mhm.
then pass the torch. That's what makes a true leader. That's what really spreads impact. And that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. Getting Joe from 1.3 to 2 million is not our goal here. Finding more of you, helping more of you realize 1 million, realize 1.3, realize passing Joe, and then doing it consistently,
Mhm.
that would mean more to us. We
Amen.
know this is repeatable. If one
Mhm.
person can do it, someone else can too. Just like we talked about yesterday, there's the art of fulfillment and the science of success. We know the science, we've got the process dialed in. It's just repetition after that. That's what creates muscle memory. We already know it works because you did it. We've seen our clients do it. We've seen our clients smash your monthly record, your
And
biggest sale record.
I'm proud of that. And in fact, it's one of those things where I encourage. The thing is I've removed myself from accepting that, you know what? I don't have to wear a crown. I would rather take the crown, melt it, and distribute the rubies to all of our members. I want every single one of us to learn from my experiences to be better than me. I'm not trying to produce more me's. There's enough of that. I want to make people who are better than me. And if that mission gets accomplished, even by one or two people, I know what we have done and been worth it.
Hundy P, man. Couldn't do this with anyone else. I appreciate you. So, with that said, what do you say we give away some real transparent live training value now?
Fucking go for it, dude. Just
Here,
throw it on the tee. I'm
here's
ready.
what I'm thinking. I'm going to set you up with something.
Okay.
Demand call or opportunity call. You can choose. Let's do both and see if we can't
Okay.
come up with 6 options and see how much time we have to help people understand both processes just from
Sure.
speaking it.
Okay. So the easiest would then be, let's do a coin toss. Heads or tails, demand or opportunity.
Heads is demand, and that's what I'm taking.
Okay. Demand call it is.
Nice, nice. Love that trick. The coin toss. You revealed the true self here. So here's what I'm thinking. Homeowner calls you. You've never worked for them before.
Okay.
They're a new client. They found you
Mhm.
on Google. So
Mhm.
very, very low influence here. But guess what? They're feeling an emergency. They're a little worried because one of their receptacles does show some signs of burning, melting, and they smelled
Okay.
smoke.
Okay. How old is the home?
The home is about 25 years old.
Okay, so 25 years old. There is burning. Is it backstabbed? What was the cause of the burning?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a backstabbed electrical point. We've got a 25-year-old electrical system. Has any major renovations been done, or is it the consistent step throughout across the board?
They bought it 3 years ago. There are indications that suggest there's been renovations and maybe even without permits.
Okay, so we're not entirely sure what we're walking into. They're not entirely sure what they're walking into. What is the fault? Where is it being controlled from? Like, which electrical point is it? Is it kitchen? Is it bedroom? Is it bathroom? Is it
Dining
exterior?
room.
Dining room. Okay, so the least. Okay, so you got me on the least used room of the house with an electrical point. All right, we'll figure this out. So, with this being said, is there any glaring condition that we need to know, or are we assuming everything looks good until we decide otherwise?
Yep. Everything looks good. Demand call. They don't know what's going on. Clearly
Okay.
signs of electrical hazard, fire,
Okay.
melting, smoke.
So my logic then is if we have one that actually physically melted, right? Whether it melted or there's burning on the wall or there's smoke because they plugged one in and it sparked, whatever it is, that's the idea we're going off of. That's my mental image. Okay. So in this circumstance, I'd rather build from the bottom up only because we're dealing with a situation where we're going off the blind. Normally, I would go top down, but that would be me knowing the customer, knowing them, bonding, seeing the home, and having a better gauge. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. So the first thing we would then do is the easiest one is, okay, we have this electrical point. We're going to change this electrical point. That's bare minimum, right? You have this here. I'm going to remove it from the wall. I'm going to clip the damaged wires, put in the butt splices or the Wagos or the splice or the pigtail, whatever you're going to do, however you do, it's fine with me. And then taking my magic eraser brush and then brushing around that wall to make sure that the smoke is gone.
Love the
Right?
magic eraser touch, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm a fan
Well, I was gonna
myself.
say, yeah, I love magic erasers. I always wore my white gloves whenever I was working on cover plates because I didn't like my fingers smudging things.
Can I
Oh,
just
I
say,
see what
every
you're
time
doing.
I hold this up, it's less about me and more about the company.
I love it, right?
These options brought to you by Service Loop Electrical.
I love it. I'm glad you're using your gift, man. It makes me happy. Okay, so the bottom option is just change that one point, right?
Yep.
Theoretically, we could even say, hey, you know what? My bottom is I'm just going to do a basic touch around it, right? Above that would then say, okay, well, let's talk about everything that's in that room, just in that room alone, right? We know that all the outlets in this room, they're 25 years old. It's likely that they have discoloration or they're maybe loose on their temper tags, or maybe they don't even have tamper resistance.
Mm-hmm.
So my next logical thing is saying, I'm going to do everything in this room. It's going to match. It's going to be consistent. We're not going to have a problem. Then going above that, I would say, well, what's stopping us from doing the entire circuit, right? Because it's likely I mean, if you go by basic residential, it could be that this is the dining room and the foyer and maybe upstairs and maybe it goes downstairs. Like we don't know, right?
Could be some
But
additional points tied in there.
the fact is whoever did this circuit, if they backstabbed one point, it's likely they did every point, right?
Yep.
So now we're doing every point of the circuit. Now that would include also the lighting controls. So at that point, you have this room, everything looks consistent, everything matches, and everything on that circuit would be restored. So now we're 3 options in.
Mm-hmm.
Now going above that, we would say, all right, well, if the same builder did this thing, what's saying that they didn't do it throughout the majority of the house? So provided we did our preliminary inspection, we opened up a bunch of different points and we said, yes, they did backstab the rest of the house, this is how I would scale it. It wouldn't be a full redevice yet. We're going to build towards that.
Okay.
That could be something along the lines of, okay, we are going to redevice the entire floor. Then just going to be the electrical points. We're doing the switches on that one circuit, but we're doing all the outlets on this whole floor. The reason why I'm saying just the outlets is because I can't plug a space heater into a light switch. So the risk is much lower than if it wasn't. I can justify and say, hey, I need to change these points because this is somewhere that could become a fire hazard, but you're less likely to put a 200-watt bulb into that light fixture over your head. Like, it's not going to happen. So we're not expecting arcing through
No
the switch.
significant loads. Yep.
Yeah. Above that would then be, okay, let's do maybe the whole floor or the whole house redevice with all the outlets. Then above that would be a total redevice, including all switches and GFIs. So what we've done just from that, so that's 6 options right there. That includes no enhancements. That assumes that everything in the house was perfect and that we saw nothing else. There was no, they had the surge protector, they had the labeling, they had everything. That is how you can get 6 options on just one burnt outlet. Okay. So that seems pretty straightforward from there. There's a ton of enhancements you can include. Hit me.
Okay. Would you argue, what if you followed up, you learned that you were the second person there?
Okay.
And you were following a contractor who actually took the stance of saying, you know what, if this was backstabbed, everything's going to be backstabbed. And so we'd want to inspect and redevice your entire home as our lowest option to save us the liability of walking away from this and knowing there's potential for this to happen again.
Okay. And I'm the second person.
That point.
So just so I understand, the point is that the first person who came in said that in order to do anything, he has to do a total inspection and he's going to charge for a total inspection. And then he won't even do anything unless they do a full inspection.
So basically he was going to offer options too, but his bottom option was just a lot higher than yours. So he started with, started with a complete redevice based on the fact that these are 25-year-old backstabs, likely in every device location.
I mean, you can, but the thing is, it doesn't feel as relative to the customer.
Okay.
And I think that's a really big point that comes into mind, right? Because let's say, sake of argument, I can see where that's justified, but it wouldn't really be in a 25-year-old home. So I've been in those circumstances in older homes, because if you were to say it's knob and tube or it's all cloth, okay, I'm not touching a cloth line until I know that it's safe. I mean, we've literally seen documents where you touch it and the wire just melts, not the wire, the cloth around it, the conductor sheathing physically just deteriorates into dust. And now a small job, just by tightening and making a splice, now becomes a larger job.
Yeah.
Something like that, I would justify saying, you know, my bottom option is just opening everything up and then moving forward with it. And then from there, I'm willing to apply that diagnostic towards the cost of the total job. Like, I can see that, but for a 25-year-old home, I can't see leading with, I'm not doing anything unless we do a redevice inspection.
Okay. I think that's helpful for some, because there's a lot of talk around the options themselves, but there's also this kind of sliding scale of, where do we draw the line of our liability, and what level of safety should we actually be forcing almost on our clients? I hate using that word, but you know what I mean? Where do we draw the minimum standard for our service?
Okay. So where that comes down to, in my personal opinion, is I will not do something that, if I did it, causes my customer to be more unsafe than when I left them. Like an example would be, hey, I have a kitchen GFI. I don't know what it protects, but I'm going to turn off the GFI, or I'm going to remove the load side from it. Right? Like, I can see that being a major liability, because now their sub pump doesn't have GFI, or their bathroom, or their exterior. That's danger. That's a really, really big danger. Right? But to do a preliminary inspection, I don't want to force my hand on anyone. I would rather say, these are the options that are available to you. You understand the level of safety that goes into each one of them. I'm happy to support you. How would you like me to proceed?
Yeah.
The bare minimum is, sure, the bare minimum is what it is. I can change that one electrical point.
Yeah.
As long as we can explain to them that this is not your permanent fix, this is a band-aid type solution, or this is the temporary type solution,
Hmm.
you can expect callbacks, because if it happens here, what's the odds that it's not also going to happen down the line?
Yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure.
I think, yeah, that also be a
I
warranty
mean,
situation as
yeah, I
well.
mean, that controversy develops around this concept of also, though, just like knob and tube and the dangers associated with that, that backstab does have known hazards associated. I mean, we've all seen this at some point. So it's a
Mhm.
matter of time before.
True. I think the difference a lot of times is that there are some people that really do believe that backstab is safe, and the justification is that it passes UL standard.
Hmm.
It is a legal way that can be inspected, compared to cloth, which was legal, but through the course of its age, I mean, most cloth, a little fun fact here, most cloth wire was actually made by being dipped in formaldehyde. That actual cloth itself has a formaldehyde base. When it breaks down, it becomes more brittle and actually can become a carcinogen when breathed in.
Right.
So the fact is that you want me to work on something that not only is 100 years old or 80 years old at the youngest, but is going to become brittle the moment I touch it. And if I'm working in it without a mask, I could be breathing in fibers that can cause cancer.
Yeah.
It's a very big difference compared to I'm working on a 25-year-old system that passed UL standard, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also ties in that UL standard and the problem that exists. And maybe you've got more information on this than I, but the FP stuff. It
Yes.
passes, it ends up in homes. Yet, we've talked about it many times with many electricians, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Seems to be fairly agreed upon point that it's only a matter of time before this becomes a hazard.
Correct. The same thing was with UL standard. Like you have Federal Pacific panels, they worked. They were allowed for years and years and years. They were in industrials, commercials, residentials. But I believe around the 70s was when they detected that, hey, we're having an unusual amount of fires coming for these residential systems. But they put a ban on it, but they didn't rip them out of people's homes. They said,
Mhm.
as they fail, we'll pull them out. So it doesn't make sense, because think about it. Like, why would they choose to say, yeah, we're going to take full liability of this? And not only that, but we're going to cover you all having new electrical systems. No company would do that. They should, but they didn't. So now
100%.
we have 50, 60, 70 years later, all these systems that are still rotting in people's basements, still just one loose wire away from being an absolute fire hazard. And it's our responsibility to save them from that. Or if not save them, let them know what's going on so they have the opportunity to save themselves.
I love that. It's good policy. And I really like how you drew the line in this one on sort of your minimum acceptable standard. We don't always have to do everything to make it as safe as possible right
Correct.
now. And I think that speaks to earlier in the week when we talked about building a relationship, a trusting relationship with someone, and even looking at it like a timeline and
Mhm.
saying, well, look, this is what we recommend. There are likely other situations that in time this happens again.
Exactly.
But would it be
Like,
wrong of us to start at that most economical that we could offer today to at least get your dining room circuit back on, get that
mhm.
condition to a safe place, and show you how we could begin to resolve the rest?
Exactly. And I love that we're doing that, because our minimum standard can be what we believe it needs to be. But my personal view is that you've called me out to your home because you have an emotional and physical situation. It's obviously uncomfortable. It's obviously something you don't want to deal with. My role is to make the home safer than I found it. Doesn't mean that it's going to be a full rewire. Doesn't mean it's going to be a full redevice. Doesn't mean you're going to have all the smokes or arc faults you need. But I know that when I leave, what I've touched will be safer than when I found it. And as long as we're operating from that standard of, I know it's going to be safer than when I found it, and you'll have known the options of how you could restore it more permanently, I've done my job.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, so we're going to run out of time here, Joe. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do the opportunity call too, but that was, I feel like, a great and warranted conversation around those options and how to build
Mhm.
them up. That took just minutes, right, from theoretical observations. And of course, you probably find more, and they might even insert a laundry list item here and there. But
Yeah.
that's how simple options building can be. I feel that we gave a great example here, and we've given a few on other episodes as well. Let's come up with a couple action items and close out the week because, my man, it is Friday. I can't wait to enjoy this weekend.
Yes. So let's get into it. So as far as what I'm sorry, when we were going through, you wanted
Actions.
to go additional actions. Yes.
Actions.
So the thing about, I would say, as far as minimum actions with it, you would want to take on this is it's not your fucking home. That is the bare minimum action. And I said the F word in there specifically because I wanted to underline that it's not your home. You do not get to choose what work gets done in there. That's the thing about options that becomes so successful. I'm going to offer things better than what I expect you'll take, and I'm going to offer the bare minimum of what could be done. As long as it operates within my minimum standard, I will do it. Any option you choose is a good choice because you're working with us. But I'm not going to have any weight on any option you decide. If you want to buy a $20,000 package, you want to buy a $2,000 package, I do not care. I've done my job, and I'm going to continue to serve you at the highest level, regardless of what you choose.
Love it. Great start to that. And I just want to say, like, keep in mind what you're hearing right now is from the same guy we talked about earlier that consistently produced 1.3 million in his van for the year. So what that means is, even though right now you're feeling like, well, that sounds too low, Joe, maybe I don't want to start there. If that was your impulse, we're not selling enough on this job. We're not starting high enough. The proof is there.
I can argue that, though.
Okay.
I can argue that because there's a metric on time invested. So a lot of times people will try to swing for the fences. And as a result, they try to get these bigger numbers. And when they hit them, it's like, yeah, it's a home run, 19,000 sale, 20,000 sale, 30,000 sale. That's fine. Home run hitters are awesome. Me, I'd rather be the guy that constantly gets singles. Let me just get singles all day. You can put me into the bank. You know that you're going to get $100,000 a month out of me every month. It's going to be consistent year after year after year. It's not going to be flashy, but we're going to get great reviews. Your customers are going to come back. They're not going to feel like you pushed anything on them. And as a result, they're going to tell their friends. When you push for higher sales, yes, you will be more likely to be successful. But when I said time invested, what I meant by that was, if you take all the time you spent going on all the opportunities you went to, and you calculated how many did I help versus how many did I not, you'll find that we helped a more consistent average than the ones who went to the calls and missed it because they wouldn't offer anything less than 5,000. And even more so, that the return customer was high because they recognized that we were someone they could like, trust, and respect.
Nailed it. Here's the all-star action, guys. Hit rewind about 15, 20 seconds and listen to that again, and then watch the movie Moneyball. How the Oakland Athletics made it to almost taking the whole thing based on those kind of stats alone, on base percentage. Oh my God, that's powerful, Joe. I love that. Great finish to another episode and another week on Electripreneur Secrets, the Electricians Podcast, guys. We're just a couple of master electricians with business addictions trying to help you master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level electrical service. I know that today's episode is going to help you get there. Please join us on Facebook. Join us on the website, serviceloopelectrical.com. Reach out to us. Grab the 6 option secrets that we're giving away this week for free. Listen to this again and let us know your 6 option wins. Let us know how options are freeing you and helping your customers. And of course, let us know what stood out most about this week and how it helped your business grow. See you next week, Joe.
Can't wait to see you, man.